Marfoogle News going live in 3. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and we've got some pretty alarming developments that are going on right now, and we're going to go over those right now, including one of the leaders of the whole Venezuela missions is now stepping down, and some of the reasons of why he's stepping down is really unsure. But again, after 37 years, Alvin Halsey is leaving less than a year into his tenure. And some of the anonymous people that are coming forward saying why are saying that he has concerns about the mission and the coming mission in Venezuela. Mind you, they are talking about land attacks, which we'll talk about here in a second, and they are talking about potentially taking out Maduro, right? So this is obviously, a case where you think, does he not want the blood on his hands? Again, they said that the military commander overseeing the Pentagon's escalating attacks against boats in the Caribbean Sea that the Trump administration says are smuggling drugs is stepping down. 3 U.S. officials said on Thursday the officer, Admiral Alvin Halsey, is leaving his job as head of the U.S. Southern Command, which oversees all operations in Central and South America, even as the Pentagon has rapidly built up some 10,000 forces, 8 warships. Remember, these 8 warships are supposedly to knock out tiny speedboats. I don't really believe that. In fact, I don't believe this is all about narco-terror. I believe this is actually, preparing to take out Maduro. But again, we'll talk about that and reasons why we believe that this is absolutely happening. And right after this, we're going to talk about, of course, over on Marfoogle TV, everything else that is happening, like they are stockpiling for an imminent World War III. That will be in just a moment. Again, before we move on, make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/EMP if you want to protect yourself against an electromagnetic pulse attack, if you want to protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, gas and solar, or even your ham radio, your Starlink, your home, then get yourself an EMP shield. They're very easy to put in your car. It takes less than 10 minutes, and you don't have to be a mechanic to do it. You can literally watch a YouTube video and doing it in about 8 minutes. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It will also protect you against a Carrington level event from the sun. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. You will get $50 off per device. And of course, not only will you get that discount, but you will also help our channel at the same time. All right, let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine. And quick shout out to I think it was Stephen, lost it. Yep, Stephen McMahon, who said, God bless, all in the house. Off to work. Love y'all. Thanks for the super, Stephen.
Hey, thank you, Stephen. And then do you want to go over the CIA covert ops and what's going on with that?
Okay, so apparently Trump has authorized the CIA to do covert ops targeting Venezuela's Maduro. So already the Pentagon has been engaged in what could be interpreted as more overt acts of war in the regional waters, the targeting of boats off of the coast, as we've covered quite often here. And clarity in anti-Maduro operations are picking tempo and ratcheting the temperature, they say. But at this point, after 5 instances of drone attacks in boats, which I believe is now 6, as one happened just recently in the last few hours, about 27 people have died. The Trump administration has alleged the traffickers are operating with the blessing and oversight of Maduro. So now he's putting Maduro directly in the crosshairs. So the U.S. military has further maintained significant military buildup in the Caribbean. As we mentioned earlier, 10,000 troops are there. But this authorization is the latest step in the administration's intensifying pressure campaign against Venezuela. For weeks, the U.S. military has been targeting boats off the coast there, and the American officials have been clear privately that the end goal is to drive Mr. Maduro from power. The new authority would allow the CIA to carry out lethal operations in Venezuela and conduct a range of operations in the Caribbean. So that's pretty significant.
And it's exactly what many thought that this was about as far as a regime change and taking out Maduro. Obviously, Maduro has had a strife presidency down there in Venezuela. He actually ran a vote to actually take over his neighbor's resources, Guyana. He is often aligning himself not only with, of course, Russia, but China and Iran and other countries. So it makes sense that this country is about to be regime changed if this all goes through. This is way bigger than I think that a lot of people think, because this is all teamed up with a potential event with all of our adversaries. And I think that they are picking off kind of the easy fruit off the tree first, and preemptively, taking action where I don't think that they thought that the president was going to put all of that force down there. I think that this could have been based on intelligence that they were planning to do something to us in the next year. So the president possibly, saw that and ended up putting forces down there, himself, and completely surprising. I mean, a lot of people did not see the amount of forces being put down there happening, but it happened. And then, of course, they were doing a new exercise. And again, there is breaking news in the last couple hours that they might have hit a seventh boat or a sixth boat. And there might actually be survivors on that one. And they even said that they may be doing a search and rescue mission for some of those and try to get a hold of some of those people on that boat to try to, possibly talk to them or interrogate them. I don't know. But Venezuela's Maduro orders new military exercises after that last boat was blown up. So they said that Wednesday ordered military exercises in the country's biggest shanty towns after U.S. forces blew up another boat allegedly carrying drugs from the Caribbean country. And then we have Trump says land strikes may be next for Venezuela. If you were unsure before this, I mean, it's something we've been talking about for now weeks. They talked about the mulling of this idea of potentially going in on land. It just keeps reverberating this message of going in on land. That would make a whole lot more sense with 8 warships, with helicopters, with all of these different things that are moving into place, with C-17 Globemasters bringing the single remains of a person into Trinidad. I mean, they very well could be loading this place up with even more than 10,000 troops. Again, President Donald on Wednesday floated targeting Venezuelan drug cartels with land strikes and escalation of his administration's repeated strikes on boats out of the country as he tries to staunch the flow of drugs into the U.S. Now, at the same time, I don't know if you've seen any of the right-leaning media, but even left-leaning media, CNN, and others have been giving him credit for the peace deal in the Middle East. I just want to point out there's something that is still very, very wrong underneath all of this. I don't know if you guys have seen gold prices, but it is now at, of course, $4,368. Just want to remind you again, about a year ago, it was at $2,000. It is up almost $2,400. It has more than doubled. This tells me that the richest people in the world, the biggest countries in the world, are buying gold like there is no tomorrow. Sorry, I do not believe that this peace deal is going to be the one and done, and then everybody is going to go back to normal. In fact, I think that this is what they needed for, PR. I think that this is what they needed for a lot of things, and they did whatever they needed to do. Now, it is very good that we got all of the hostages back, but when you sit in our seats and in our community, a lot of us have questions about the entire thing in the first place, starting at what actually started this whole back and forth between them, the day on the 7th when all of it went down, right? So with that being said, does that stop Russia? Does that stop Russia and Ukraine? Which, of course, that's moving forward. And now you're seeing a narrative that is syndicated across the board of everyone saying like, oh, now, everybody is loving the president. First of all, there are a lot of people that hate the president, but the media is telling you that essentially that a lot of people with TDS are now kind of reverting and going, you know what, I'm putting my foot in my mouth and now I completely, have to give him credit where credit is due. Showing clips like Bill Maher and William H. Macy essentially saying like, we got to give him credit. And man, that guy was really just stand-up guy. And it just seems weird to me and odd to me that overnight, when we were talking about last week, how everybody was getting on his case, after 1 week and after one event, that everybody's going to turn. Obviously, if you follow these, patterns, obviously by next week, they'll hate him again. And by next week, they'll be trashing him again. But this week, he's in the good graces of the media. But I wonder why. Do you ever wonder why that some of these medias do this? They do it because there is some sort of operation going on, or there's about to be something where they need the entire country's support behind. I would think a war would be that cause. Talking about land strikes is a big deal. Dex, do you want to talk about the special operations helicopters near Venezuela?
Yeah, so the Elite 160 Special Operations Aviation Regiment appears to have flown within 90 miles of Venezuela, according to visual analysis. This is after the authorization of the CIA. So the U.S. Military Special Elite Operation Unit appears to have flown where I said, and it's been from the coast of Venezuela in recent days. So it's been going on for multiple days now. The helicopters were engaged in training exercises, according to U.S. officials, that could serve for preparation for expanded conflict against those traffickers, as they keep referring to. But as we obviously can tell, it's really about what are they going to do with Maduro. So again, this is add this to the escalation. All of these things are happening right now in Venezuela.
They straight up said the president said Wednesday he had authorized the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, to conduct missions inside the country. CIA can take the guy out. I mean, they can literally just take the guy out. They can snipe him. They can frickin' put somebody right next to him. They can put poison in his drink. I'm sure that scared the hell out of Maduro. At least this week, he is probably freaked the hell out. And then we have deployed B-52 bombers over the Caribbean in an unprecedented show of force. If you remember, we talked about this odd flight of the B-52 that went over Texas. And we said, hey, this is quite odd. This drill might turn into something real. And then, of course, we have this. Dex, don't you think it's funny? We were just talking about the bomber flying over Texas. And then, of course, we said, this very well could be connected to some sort of real operation that's about to go down. Now they're flying B-52s over the Caribbean.
Yeah, and it turns out it wasn't just Texas. There was another B-52 that had flown either the day before or hours before that went the other direction. So obviously we were flying them for a reason, and now we're flying them over the Caribbean. So unprecedented show of force. The flight over the Gulf of America, as it should be called, passed through the Yucatan Channel and separates both Mexico and Cuba. So that little strip down there. Between the two, and then headed towards, the northern area of the Venezuelan coast. So U.S. military deployed at least 2 of the B-52 strategic bombers in that region at the time. And again, these are unprecedented flights over the Gulf of America.
They had to put. So this is a UK outlet, isn't it? Because they had to put the Gulf of Mexico. Well, obviously, everybody else around the world still calls it the Gulf of Mexico, or most places do. But it's just kind of funny. Yeah. So with this being said, when we see these things and when we called them out, when the B-52s are flying over, it always means something. There were comments like, oh, who cares? B-52s flying over. They're just flying from one base to another. Well, obviously, these things can sometimes mean something different. So you always have to watch, and you always have to wonder, is it just a drill or is it just transport? It very well could be a setup for some sort of operation. This could be practice for an actual bombing run on a main city in Venezuela. Yep. So, yeah. Definitely have to watch.
Yeah. And I go back to the idea about taking Maduro. The fact, as you said earlier, that he's aligned with China, aligned with Iran, aligned with Russia. I think that's part of it. Like, that's a threat. But I think when we look at some of the big regime changes America has done over the years, especially in the Middle East, ultimately at the root of it is natural resources. And we can't forget that Venezuela has like one of the absolute largest oil reserves in the world. And if we overthrow that and can put in a government that is going to side with America, then all of a sudden we're going to have a booming business operation with Venezuela and oil. And the likes of the American oil companies that want to expand, not contract, the work they've been doing there. And they'll probably bring our gas prices down too, but it will obviously line the pockets of a lot of oil business.
Yep, which makes complete sense. If you think those oil tycoons have just went to sleep and said, you know what, I'm switching over to electric, I highly doubt it. it's going to take decades and decades to get off of the use of oil. So I'm sure that we're going to see a lot of resource wars coming in our next decade, and this is one of them. So yeah, we'll be covering the Swedes and other countries are feverishly preparing and stockpiling like there is no tomorrow. We'll talk about that and more over on Marfoogle TV. You have to follow us. If you just stay in the chat, you'll be ported over automatically. If you're watching the replay, make sure to click the description down below. You'll be brought right over to that next show. Again, make sure to look for that. If you want to find a full bibliography for every single article, tweet, video, picture, document for today's show, all you have to do is go to marfooglenews.com and look for this thumbnail. You will have a full bibliography of every source we used. All right, you guys, have a great night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Again, stick around. You'll be ported right over to the next show.
Got my soul on the south side, where to teach everyone how to ride. On this